Good morning and welcome to SCOR's Getting Started with QuickBooks Online webinar. We're so happy to have Cal Layton, who is a SCOR mentor, and I'll talk a little bit more about Cal in just a minute. And we also have another SCOR mentor, Angela Norkovitz. All right. But before we get started in this detail, did want to talk a little bit about SCOR for those of you who may not know, but SCOR has been around since 1964. We're a national organization and we are a resource partner of the Small Business Administration, but our mission is to really help those entrepreneurs and small business owners succeed. There are chapters throughout the United States. The chapter that we're part of, it covers Chester and Delaware counties in Pennsylvania. We have over 100 volunteers that help through mentoring and presenting of education like this webinar, and almost all of these are at no cost to you. So we are very happy here as volunteers to help you try to succeed with your business. The presentation is being recorded and it will be made available to you in a follow-up after today's session. All the participants are placed on mute so that we can avoid any distractions. However, we will be taking your questions and answering your questions. Within Zoom, there is a Q&A box, and we encourage you to place your questions in the Q&A box, and we will be taking questions throughout the presentation. If there are any specific comments or references that you would like to make, you can make them in the chat box. So why don't we try putting in the chat box, who here out of the attendees, and there are 10 of you, who has used QuickBooks in some version before? If you could just enter that into the chat box, that would be helpful. Okay. Bashira has. I see one person. Some have. Maja has not. Rhonda has a desktop version. Okay, good. Some have limited used it, and some have. Okay, so we have a mixture. This is a beginning session webinar, so hopefully you should all learn a good amount throughout this. Before I get into the actual presentation, I do just want to introduce our presenters. So first, our main presenter is Cal Layton. Cal has a background in IT consulting for many, many years. And he had his own consulting business. He worked for various computer manufacturers, and he also was self-employed as a consultant. Eventually, he left the IT world and he became a controller for a long care pharmacy. During his retirement job, he has been mentoring with SCOR and he's been doing the controller job. So he has extensive experience in both QuickBooks as well as financials and IT and mentoring with SCOR. So we welcome Cal. We also have Angela Norkovitz on the line. And she has over 30 years experience in private industry and public sector accounting, financial systems and implementation, and business consulting. She is a member of the QuickBooks Pro Advisor program, and she's also another mentor with SCOR. She's a recent joiner, I think in the last year or two. So we welcome Cal and Angela, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Angela, who's going to talk about the different options of QuickBooks. Angela?
Good morning. I wanted to highlight first where you can find information about the QuickBook product versions. And the slide that I'm going to share with you was taken directly from the QuickBooks website. But it gives you an opportunity to look at the different options that QuickBooks now has available. And if you have not yet purchased QuickBooks, I would suggest you spend a good amount of time making sure You purchase one that is upgradable and one that can move with you as your business grows. Next slide, Mercedes. Great. So I'm going to quickly highlight the QuickBook product options. The ones shown here are the online cloud-based products. You can still purchase QuickBooks Desktop, which is the Premier Plus or the Enterprise Plus, but make no mistake, QuickBooks is definitely making every effort to shift customers to these online products. The Simple Start option on the far left is a very basic option, and it includes tracking income and expenses, offering a full general ledger with a balance sheet and a profit and loss reporting capability. You can also do estimating and mileage tracking. Then, as you can see, as the products progressively get more expensive, they do add more functionality. I've drawn a red box around the additional functionality available in each. Each of these versions offers everything in Simple Start, but then they do add additional capability. So one other thing I'll mention, once you purchase Simple Start, you can upgrade to Essentials. And if you purchase Essentials, you can upgrade to Plus. So you're not really limited if you buy one of these versions. So to highlight these differences, as you move progressively towards the advanced options, you'll notice the number of users and the number of sales channels grow. And that's important because if you're a business that has potentially 5 people in your business accounting department, you wouldn't want to buy Essentials if 5 people need to access the product. And sales channels, for those of you that are very new to your business, they're third-party vendors that you might use, such as Amazon or Etsy, and they connect directly to this QuickBooks product. So with Essentials, you have the ability to track employee time. With Plus, you add the ability to do inventory and project management. So this is probably a good option for a retail business that needs to keep track of available inventory. And also, if you are, say, in construction and you need to keep track of projects that you are working on, you'll be able to track the income and the expenses associated with the construction project. And Advanced offers employee expense tracking, workflow automation, and revenue recognition. Advanced is really moving towards the bigger companies. But like I said, if you're going to purchase any of these versions of QuickBook Online, please do additional research. I'll also mention that there's a sole proprietor version that's a very, very bare bones. It may work with you to get started, but it's not upgradable. It tracks revenue and expenses, and it doesn't provide double entry bookkeeping. So there's no balance sheet reporting, which may be important if you wanted to go to a bank and get a loan. So certainly feel free to reach out if you have questions on any of these product options, but QuickBooks would be the best place to do your research. Okay.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here and make this presentation. Just a few things before we get started. I noticed with the comments in the chat room, there were a few that have QuickBooks Desktop, and this presentation is Desktop Online. However, I'm very familiar with both the QuickBooks Desktop and the QuickBooks Online. You're going to find that there are differences. The program was designed and written by different teams of people, but essentially it accomplishes the same objective. So you may not, the process we're going through today will be a little bit different, but you'll get the idea, and maybe it could be intuitive enough when you're doing the desktop version, they can figure it out. Another note, I do mentor clients on their QuickBooks, so feel free to request an online session using Zoom. It works very well for QuickBooks. That you put your QuickBooks, you share your QuickBooks screen, and in the process, whatever issue we're dealing with, I will direct you on where to go. And I guess for specifically for the desktop people, probably be a good idea to set up one, and we can go through that separately. Another point too, for those of you that are not familiar with accounting, new to accounting, it'd probably be a good idea at some point to get a book, the Dummy series. There's bookkeeping for dummies that could step you through the concepts of accounting, so that it would answer any questions about why we're doing what we're doing. So having said that, what you see on the screen now is an outline of what I plan to cover this morning. I'll start with going through accountings and accountant settings, where you're setting up your company. Then we'll discuss doing banking and linking your bank accounts to QuickBooks. Make a few bank deposits. We'll go through some invoicing, and we'll generate some bills to vendors. Discuss a little bit about recurring transactions, which are basically transactions that are the same every month, like your rent. And then we'll spend some time reconciling your bank accounts and or credit cards. And finally, we'll wrap up with going over the reports. The two primary reports are the balance sheet and the income statement.
That sounds like quite a bit you're going to cover, so we'll go ahead and get into it.
Okay.
And folks, just a reminder that if you do have questions, we will be taking them along the way. Please enter them into the Q&A box. Thank you.
Okay. What you see on the screen now is the dashboard of QuickBooks. And we will start by going into account and settings. And how we get to that point is over on the right side of the screen, we have the gear. I open it up, and there's a list of items that are some functions and some functional items and transactional items. So we'll go to account and settings. Whoops. First thing, a second here. We're at the mercy of technology right now.
It's not normally this slow, though. When people are working, this is maybe dependent upon your internet. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to do a refresh here. Hopefully it'll. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, the first item is when you're setting up your business, there's a list of things. Put the name of the company, the type of company, the contact information, address, etc. So for the first thing over here, we have the pencil to do the edit on the right side. Open that up. We can put the company name in, put your EIN number or your Social Security number. Your Social Security number is an EIN for reporting purposes, and that is if you were just a sole proprietor. And you put your email address, the company's address, etc. Okay. The second item is usage limits. First thing is you have billable users, which basically I can't, for some reason, the test drive that we have here does not allow me to add a user. But when you're working with your live data, there will be something here that would say new, and you would click on new, and you'd be able to add a name, email address, and information about the individual user. Now, why do we do that? Well, the main reason, an important reason, is if you have 5 users and they're in there making, adding, or putting in transactions to QuickBooks, it's good for doing an audit trail of who put what into who put what data where when there's a problem, for being able to analyze it. It also will allow certain individuals to have access to only pieces of the program. And let's see here. Okay, so the usage limits, you can have up to 25 based on what option you have in the purchases that Angela showed. The next thing is the chart of accounts. And we have right now 44 items in our chart of accounts, which the chart of accounts basically has 5 different components. You have your assets, your liability, your income, expenses, and your equity. And the income expenses would be in the profit and loss statement or income statement, and the assets, the liability, and the equity would be the items that would be in your balance sheet. So just going through this, checking account and savings at the top. Okay, our assets, accounts receivables an asset, inventory is an asset. Scrolling down further, we have fixed asset, like we have a truck in this sample. This is Craig's design and landscaping business. So of course he has a truck. We have our accounts payable. Our credit card is a liability. Okay, and then you scroll down further, we have all our income items that are in here, which landscaping services, the jobs we have, and you have the ability to add and subtract any of these to make it look the way you want to look when you see the reports. Now, these items for this chart of accounts were generated based on when you started QuickBooks and open it up for the first time. It will step you through what kind of company you have or what options you have with the purchase, and it'll ask about your business, and resulting from that will be a list of chart of accounts which you can add and subtract as time goes on. And let's give you just an example here. If we want to add an account to the chart of accounts, we would hit new. Okay, and go to banking. We're gonna add a checking account. Okay, we can add income accounts, expenses accounts, assets, credit cards, liabilities. For the purposes of this, we're gonna put in let's say a payroll checking account. I just say payroll checking. Oh, no, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself. It is a checking account. The account name will be payroll checking. Description will be payroll checking. One suggestion when you're putting in accounts, it might be a good idea to put the last 4 digits of the account number to be able to separate from other checking accounts. Okay, it's a balance sheet item, and that's okay. And that's pretty much all we have to do to enter it. Hit save. And you will see that all of a sudden now we have the payroll checking account that's in there. And that's something you use if you're if you were to use the payroll facility that QuickBooks offers. We're not going to go into that today, but that's just an example of how to add an account. Okay. Another thing I might add too, and it's not working in this demo, the test demo, but up on the right corner here we have the help. And when you are live and you get to the point where you don't know what to do next, if you hit the help, it's going to say that it's not working here, but you can talk to an assistant, or you can do a search of an item. Oh, there you go. It is working. And you search whatever you're looking for, and it will give you some idea of how to do it. So it's a great aid for you when you're in trouble. Okay. The next thing that I want to work with is now the banking. So another thing I might say is, see the left-hand side, that seems to be different depending on what version of the software you're using. But there's always going to be something along these lines to describe the part of the application that you want to access. So again, you may not see the exact same thing on your own software, but like the one I have that I work with regularly for banking just says banking, and they changed this to banking transactions. So I'm gonna hit that, and now I've got a view of my banking accounts. You see my checking and my active ones. You're not going to see the payroll checking because there's no balance in it. But we have our operating checking account, we have a savings account, and we also have a credit card, MasterCard. And what shows up here now is, I'm going to go to the operating checking account, and you're going to see a list of transactions that have been downloaded from the bank into a holding area called a limbo area. These transactions have been downloaded from the bank and are not in QuickBooks. They're in a holding area, basically telling you what has already hit your bank. To set that up, you will link I'm not going to do this here, but you will link the account, hit the link account, and you'll put in the account information, the routing number, account number, and some banks want a PIN to verify who you are. And daily, for most banks, transactions are downloaded into this area. So when I'm scrolling down here, you're seeing all the things that have hit the bank and are waiting to be processed by QuickBooks. Now, if you think something's missing and it hasn't downloaded, if you hit the update, it'll do an immediate download if something happened to hit in the last hour or two. So they're the two things that you can use to update this. So as I said, this is a limbo area now. And we've got transactions that are waiting to be processed. Let's take the matched. The matched items basically say that QuickBooks has found a match for a deposit of $868.15 that you have already put into your QuickBooks. So it's safe to say then that we can hit match. Hicks Hardware, do that, $228. And the ones if you recognize them, you can clean them up by hitting match. And now those things go out of the limbo area and are actually into QuickBooks as recognized that and they're put into the appropriate checking register. Now there's a couple here with ads, which means you have not done anything with these, and we need to clean them up a little bit. Let's say we have on October 24th, which is today, we had a $200 item we received from the description as a rental. And when it doesn't recognize the item, it puts it into either uncategorized income or uncategorized expense, depending on whether this is in the spent column or the received column. So let's take the $200 from a rental and open it up. And what we see here is it's a vendor. We're gonna put a new vendor in here. Let's call it A1 rental. We have first time we're putting this in here, so we're going to add it to our vendor list. Going to add a new item, and it's going to be a vendor. What was a customer? We'd click customer, and we put all the information on the vendor into this area, and hit save. And I think I have to refresh again. Doesn't look like it worked. Let's try it again. Well, the vendor was at it because I was able to just put that in there. Okay, so now if we hit add, okay, what it did was it added it and it put it into the $200 deposit into the check register. Now, that could have been a refund for some rentals, but here we have the same vendor, and we'll open that up. And what you'll look at is the bank detail down below here says A1 rental, backhoe rental. That is what you'll see on the bank statement. So when you get your monthly statement, you see that, and that you can align, you can basically associate the bank statement with what you're putting in QuickBooks. So I'm not going to do anything with this just yet. Again, this is an expense, but I want to show you something. There is another item here in banking for rules. And we can put a rule in that when the program finds certain items, that it knows what to do with it. So we're going to put a new rule in, and we're going to call this the A1 rentals rule. And we're going to apply this to transactions that are all money outs. And we're going to, regardless of what bank account it is, if they find it in a MasterCard, the savings that are checking, so it's all bank accounts. And if the description has A1 rental, we are going to say it is an expense, and we're going to want to put it into a certain category. Let's see what the chart of accounts has for rent. Equipment rentals. So we'll put it in the equipment rentals. The payee in this case will be A1 rentals. And we'll hit save. So now we have a rule for A1 rentals, and we have the ability to disable it if we don't want to use it any longer, or we can go edit it if we want to make changes to it down the road. Now let's go back to bank transactions, and you see what it did here. It put A1 rentals in, and it should have, but it didn't. So we are going to add this now. And what it did was, it's asking me, do I want to use the same category for all expenses from a rental? I'll say yes, but what essentially what it has done now was added those items into QuickBooks. Now, if I if I want to check the vendor to see what is in the vendor's register, I go to expenses, look up the vendor, A1 Rentals, and you see those two expense items are now in the vendor register, so that you have the ability to track these items. You could do that for each vendor. Let's go back to the banking and linking the accounts. So you go through each one of these. I'm not going to do it today, but you look at the matches and say, oh yeah, that's right, and you can put them all in to QuickBooks, and you make the appropriate additions as you see necessary. Okay.
Cal, we do have a couple of questions. They don't
Okay.
relate to the banking, but they do
Okay,
relate
go.
to account setup. So Chad is his question is, so he's going to be doing online sales, selling a book. He asked if QuickBooks can help him keep track of state taxes, or does he have to record that separately in a spreadsheet, or is there somewhere in the settings that he can handle state taxes on the sales of his book?
You know, the answer to that question is yes. I don't see that in this test drive demo, because I was looking for that myself when I was preparing for this presentation. But yes, there is an ability to track taxes when you're setting up invoices, that it will add a sales tax line to it.
But QuickBooks will it know to calculate the appropriate sales tax percentage by state, or?
Well, you know, I don't have the answer to that. But I would suspect that they would use the rules facility to put a rule in there that if you have Pennsylvania tax, it'd be 6%, you know, Jersey 7%. And I would imagine it would work that way. I can get more clarification, but I haven't used the multi-state taxes, and like I said, this demo doesn't allow me to work with the tax situation. But I do know that QuickBooks does have it.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question we got is, how do you set up a loan? And how do you set up owner equity? And how do you show rebates on purchases that come quarterly?
Well, the question is, I think I heard, how do you set up a loan?
Yes, how do you set up a loan account, and how do you set up owner equity accounts?
Okay, well then let's go back to the chart of accounts. Okay, and we'll scroll down a little bit. Let's get to the equity part first. See, you have an opening balance on equity, and then your retained earnings at the end of the year would be put under equity. And I mean, I can.
So those accounts are automatically created when the company is
Yes.
established.
Yes.
So
Yeah, those
that's automatically done for the equity.
Now let's just see what happens here. To set up an equity account, like if you wanted to put in you know, the number of the stockholders portion, the contributions, go to equity, select equity, Um, common stock. Yeah,
So the chart of the base chart of accounts does have owner's equity
right.
accounts, but then you can add to it as you need to, as you're doing now.
Balance sheet. Hit save. And it's been added to it.
Okay, thank you.
And the other item you do basically the same thing for the loans. In fact, yeah, there's some in here already, a loan payable and a note payable. If you wanted to contribute, put $5,000 as a personal loan to the company, under liabilities, it is it a short-term or long-term liability? I'll just say short-term right now. Loan payable. Personal loan. Hit save. And now you have it in the chart of accounts. So then you will have to put in a check, received a check, and assign it to personal loan. And the amount of that check, when you put it in, will then show up on the balance. So if you put $5,000 in there, received a check, $5,000 would end up being in that balance.
Okay, that was very helpful. The third part of his question was, how do you show rebates on purchases? I would venture to say that you can create an account called rebates. That would probably be a receivable account, and you would just record any type of rebates that you're expecting to get into that account.
That is correct.
Okay.
With the chart of accounts, there's no right or wrong on what you call them. You just want to make sure that whatever they are, they're put in the right category, whether they're an income, expense, an asset, a liability, or equity. Other than that, you can call them whatever you want. And once you have them in the chart of accounts, then you can put the transactions in and assign the specific transaction to the account you want them in.
Cal, there's one other question. When you were doing your expenses and you were taking in those transactions from the bank, you were mentioning, or you were putting it into different categories. How do you know what categories there are that exist in QuickBooks, and can you maintain that list of categories?
Well, I'm assuming the category that you're talking about, when you're using the word category, you're really talking about the accounts that are in the chart of accounts.
Well, I think that when you were recording the expenses or some of those transactions that came in from the bank,
yeah,
you had categories that they were being assigned to. I think that's what they were asking
right.
about.
Which will be mapped into the chart of accounts. Like for instance, when I did that A1 rental, category was equipment rental, which is down here under expenses.
You passed it.
I'm not seeing it right away, but it's in here. There it is, equipment rental.
Mhm.
Okay. So, unless I'm missing the point of the question, when you're talking categories, you're really talking about the item in the chart of accounts.
Okay, so there's no, within the gears, there's nothing that you can do to maintain or see all the categories.
Well, you can add different accounts as you see fit, break them down into a lower level. But that's the flexibility that this allows you to have.
Okay. And folks, Angela posted something in the chat, and it's a video on tracking taxes in QuickBooks. So check out that link to YouTube video on taxes. All right, Pal, why don't we just move on to the next category? Next topic.
Okay, we're still in the banks. When we're doing bank deposits, there's a couple of ways we can do that. First thing up here in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to hit the new, and over on the far right, bank deposits. And here is a list of items. Up top, we've already put in two items have already been put in that we've actually received cash from our customers, Cool Cars and Freeman Sporting Goods. They were payments that were put in, and they were put into an area called undeposited funds. And basically what that is, you received 10 checks in the mail today from different vendors, and you put them in the QuickBooks individually from vendor A, B, C, all 10, and they'd show up in this list here with Cool Cars and Freeman Sporting Goods. And we put them into undeposited funds rather than individually deposit them into a checking account, because if we did it individually when we got our bank statement at the end of the month, we would have 10 line items in that bank statement for October 24th with 10 different customers. So it works better if we bundle them all together, put them into undeposited funds, and then click on and I'm going to do this a little later on, click on these total deposits and put them in, send them to our checking account. And so that in the end, there'll be one line item on your bank statement at the end of the month reflecting all the checks that you deposited that day. But before I get further into that, I want to, down below here, let's say we're a small company dealing with a lot cash and checks from our customers. And at the end of the day, we might have $2,500 in cash that we need to deposit. So we're going to open up an account here, and we're going to call it daily sales. Okay. Oh, I wiped it out. Daily sales, I don't have it in there, so I'm going to add a new account, daily sales, which I'll be able to use every day from here on out. And put whatever we want in here. There's not much to really add. It speaks for itself. Okay, so we do a save, and it's now in there. The account we're going to want to put it in is going to be, we'll say, other income. I know that because there is another income that's already in this test demo. So this is, by doing it as one line item, let's say it's $2,500. These are customers that just come in impromptu, buy something, and we're not keeping track of any of the details of the individual customers. We're just bundling it as we made $2,500 selling certain products. And we're putting it in there so that we have a record of it. Now, if we want to keep track of the individual customers, we would have to use either an invoice or a sales receipt. But if we're bundling it, the daily sales concept serves its purpose. So what we see now is on October 24th, today, we're going to put in checking $2,500. That's our daily sales item. So I'm going to hit, it says save and new. I want save and close. Okay, so that now that will be in our check register. Let's try a sales receipt. Sales receipt would be under the new again. Let's say we have Bill's Windrift Shop. And he purchased some concrete. And it was $250. Again, it hits save and close. And it would put in there, we're not generating an invoice, just a sales receipt. Now, if we want to do an invoice, let's say Duke's basketball camp. Okay, and we will say we're designing some landscaping at the basketball camp, and it's going to be $1,200. The thing about this, it seems to default to save and send, but my experience has been when you're live, it'll default to save and close and change it when you use another option. The next time you use save and send, then I'll go back to save and send as default. I'm not sure why it's not happening in the test drive, but that's the way it should work. Now, if we want to look at the customer register, customers, gonna want Bill's Windsurf Shop. Here are the list of items that Bill has spent with us, and you see the sales receipt here has been put in under his register. Okay. And if we want to look at the invoice that we just generated for the Duke's basketball camp, do the same thing. Duke's basketball camp is in his register, and it has not been paid, whereas the sales receipt was paid immediately. Okay. So now the next item we want to do is we got the check from Duke's. So we put it in here. It says there's a $1,200 invoice outstanding. We received that check. Put the check number down. Okay. Put the check number in there. And it's going to go to undeposited funds. We can also put it directly into checking if we want. But if we have a bunch of checks, it's best to put it in undeposited funds. Hit the save and close. Okay. And the next thing we will do is now take those undeposited funds, and we have 4 items here that we haven't deposited. So if we just check on each one of these, okay, we are going to deposit $3,512.52. Okay, into the checking account with today's date. We hit a save and close. And they are now in there. And that's pretty much how we do the bank deposits.
Cal, we do have a question
Yeah,
about around Venmo payments. So
around what?
Venmo payments. So Gail,
Oh, Venmo, okay.
Venmo.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gail has Venmo payments deposited directly into their checking account.
Yes,
Do you normally set up Venmo as a separate bank account? And then
yes.
how does the checking account and Venmo account interact in QuickBooks?
Oh, wait, okay, I'm sorry. No, you don't. I believe what you do is with Venmo, you link it to the bank account, and then it will be put in your bank account, and then when you have the daily download, those Venmo transactions should show up in this list. That's the same thing with using Square.
Okay. So you would create, you would not create a Venmo account in your as a separate checking account,
Uh,
or would you?
you could, let me think this through. Yes, you would create a separate account like a credit card. Okay. But then the payments will be tied to going to the bank. So they'd all show up in your bank account as being downloaded. But well, there's 2 things here. You're gonna keep the detail in Venmo, or do you want to duplicate the detail in Venmo into QuickBooks? which means you're downloading each Venmo transaction into QuickBooks. And then when you pay it, and then when you download or the Venmo transactions, the Venmo transactions will then be downloaded into the bank account. And so the bank account, when you do the download into the limbo area here, those Venmo transactions will show up here. So I think the base of the question is, what data do you want to keep in QuickBooks concerning Venmo? Do you want to make it just a deposit that you record in a Venmo account in QuickBooks and rely on the Venmo system to give you the detail? Or do you want to put that detail all into QuickBooks, which is a duplication, but it is doable either way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We already showed you how to do an invoice with Duke's camps. Now, what we have here with when you're talking about accounts receivable, you're using the term invoice. You're invoicing your customers. When you're talking about accounts payable, you're using the term bill, that we bill our vendors. And in this case, we're going to put a bill in that we just received from our vendor. And let's do books by Bessie. That's our accounting company, and she worked 5 hours and billed us for the 5 hours. Okay, and her invoice number is 45789. We put that in, but there's also, before we save it, I'm not going to get into this, but we have here save and schedule payment. We have the ability to schedule payments where it can be done automatically. Maybe we want to pay by credit card or whatever. But in this particular case, I'm just going to do to save and close. But there is a facility in QuickBooks where you can schedule a payment to go to your credit card later, or maybe print checks as well later. Okay, now when we go to actually pay Bessie, hit a check, and the system keeps track of the last check number. Whoops. What happened there? Uh-oh.
I think you might have just gone to a different browser window.
Hold on, I just lost it. Looks like Murphy showed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, for those of you that want to play around with the test drive QuickBooks, and this will be in the handout, uh, this website, you go to this website, test drive for QuickBooks Online, and we have available test drives, and I'm using the online advanced test drive here. I click on that, and oh, I'm not a robot. Continue.
Hey, Cal, I was going to
Yeah.
suggest at the bottom of your screen before you opened a new one, because you had some work in progress, there's a Z at the very bottom of your, try clicking that for a second. It's not,
It's not working.
no, okay. Just trying to see if I could.
Yeah, well, at any rate, using this test drive, you can work with it. We'll give you access to it, and you can play around, do everything that I've done so far. Unfortunately, will be erased when you close it down. And I may have had a problem where everything I've done has erased, but that's okay. We'll just continue with our demo. But this is a good practice that you can make all kinds of mistakes. It's a great learning tool before you actually put it in your live QuickBooks. Okay. Let's go to expenses and see. Bessie. Yeah, see Bessie. So we're going to put Bessie back in. It's a bill. Okay, so now we have Bessie's $125 bill, and we want to pay. We have check number 71, so the system keeps track of the last check in your checking account, the check number, and we want to pay books by Bessie. And on the right here, it will be the list of items that are outstanding to be paid, in her case, $125. We're going to pay it with check number 71. It's going to checking, and we'll do a close. Okay. The next item could be an expense. Okay, that we want to put an expense. Let's say it is looking for a certain vendor here that I know I saw before.
If you start typing the name, it probably would.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, if you start typing the name, would it then select, it'll go to those
I
on the
couldn't
list
remember
that
the name.
Matthew
That
had?
was the problem.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Automobile fuel. We got gas. And it was $85. And you know, we have the ability, we could either put it in a checking account, or so if it's a debit card, or we can put it into a MasterCard, so that when we download the MasterCard stuff, it's already there. Okay, now one other thing, you can write in. I just did that with Bessie, but also we can pay a bunch of them all at once. So we go to pay bills, which has a list of outstanding bills that need to be paid. And the PG&E, Norman Lumber, Robinson Associates, Brosnahan, Diego Road Warrior. So we've got all these checks now that we're ready to send out. We're going to say print later. We're not going to print them now. Or we could do that, or we could just have these checks listed as starting at number 72. We hit save. Uh-oh, it says this is already exists. So let's go up to number 73. It's a nice thing. It tells you when you have a duplicate. For some reason, that's not working, but that is. Let's do a. Oh, you know what happened? It did work the first time, and when I tried to do 73, or 72 the second time, it said it was already there. So the checks have been paid. Okay. I'd like to also mention just one thing. There is a module for recurring checks. And in there are things that happen every month. It's the same thing. Like, for instance, your monthly billing lease or your rent is $900 every month. So you can set up for any recurring payments, either a loan payment or whatever, and set it in to be put in every month on a certain date for this particular vendor. And you also have the ability to put an end date on it too. If it's a loan and you're taking an 18-month loan, you can put that in accordingly. So just be aware that you can have these things done automatically for you with recurring dates. Okay, the next item that we want to talk about is reconciling a bank account. So again, go to the gear and go to reconcile, and that'll take you to this point. And when you get your monthly bank statement, you'll get a balance on a beginning balance, which is left over from the last time we ran this, an ending balance, which I'm just going to make up a number and say 5/1/6/2/50. And the ending date, let's say, is October 31st. And I'm going to start reconciling. Okay, now what we have here are a list of items that have not been reconciled yet, but they're in QuickBooks. And we are going to want to why I can't get rid of that. There we go. Okay. List of checks that come in. We just match them up against our bank statement. Okay, and click on all these items that show up on our bank statement. Okay. And the whole objective is to get this difference down to zero. Now, the way I have it set up, I just made up a balance. It's never going to be zero in this demonstration. But when you put your ending balance in, it's gonna calculate it and tell you how much is outstanding, and you're looking to get that difference down to zero. Now you have the ability here, if you want to go, if you don't know what that 5/16/74 is, you might want to go do some research, save this for later, or close without saving and start over again. Or when it's down to zero, you hit finish now. If you hit finish now with that balance of 5/16/74, it will put an adjusting entry in there to make it balance. And it's something that it's going to carry forward until you figure out what that 5/16/74 difference is. Just an editorial comment on that. I think this is probably one of the most important things for you to do on a regular basis. I've been working with this a long time. And the one thing to be confident in your numbers is to do the reconciliation of all your bank statements monthly. When they balance out, you can speak with a lot of authority and confidence on what the numbers are that appear in the balance sheet and the income statement. Okay. Anybody have any questions on the reconciliation?
There are no questions in the Q&A box at this time.
Okay. The last item I want to go through is the reports item. And you have the ability to create your own customized reports. There's some that are generated here for you. But the real important ones are the balance sheet and the profit and loss. The balance sheet will basically show you your assets and your liabilities and your equity. And liabilities and equity have to be equal to the assets. This gives you a picture of what your company's value is at a point in time. So as of today, based on your QuickBooks accounting system, this is what the value of your assets are, the 22,704. Your liabilities are 30,000, so you're hitting a minus 790504 equity, which means it's a negative number, but nothing like a few additional sales to bring that number up. So that is your balance sheet. Now your income statement, profit and loss or income statement for Craig's Design and Landscaping Services, you have all of these items. Where your total income so far is $10,000. Now this is a seasonal thing, so this money I believe only started early summer. Your cost of goods sold is 9,700. So your gross is 405, and your gross profit's 9,795. And your net income, you made $1,432 so far this year. Now, you also have the ability to break this down by months. And that'll give you a picture of, see, if it's seasonal. There was no business through May, but starting in June, we opened up, and it's showing our revenue here. We had September was our big month. Okay. Oh. Do this again. Okay, we also have the ability here to collapse the report, which means the sub items under each of these things are put up into the top item, so that it if you're giving this to a bank, it might be better to give it in a collapse mode. But if you want to expand it, you see it shows you like all the job material things. And I think we're at 11:24.
Yes, thank you, Cal.
So
we
I
do.
think that is it.
Great. Thank you. We do have a question. And again, people, if you have additional questions about anything that's been covered, please put them in the Q&A box. We do have a question from Chad. He says when he used QuickBooks Desktop, he would save the monthly reconcile file. With online, should he download a file after reconciling for his records, or just print the reconciled document? Do you have a view?
You know, I don't know that I got all that, Mercedes. Are you basically saying, can I download this?
The reconciliation report.
And I'm still not understand. I can't understand what you're saying.
So the question is, when he would reconcile with the bank from desktop, he would download, he would save that monthly reconciliation file. Does that?
Well, it would work pretty. It would work pretty much the same way as what I demonstrated here with the online QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the question is?
Not sure. Chad, do you want to maybe add an additional clarification of your question?
Actually, I'm looking for it in the chat box.
It's in the
Oh,
it's in the
Q&A.
Q&A. Mhm.
What is the? Oh, no, you should be able to save that reconciliation report in either one of those files if you're using either one of those applications if you're using the most current version.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Does
Sorry,
anyone have,
sorry,
that's okay.
the audio wasn't coming through real good here.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? If not, I just want to take a couple minutes just to talk about the SCORE resources that are available. And again, to thank Cal for going over this information, very helpful, and Angela, who have also given information. So if you want
Mercedes,
to, yes,
Mercedes,
yes,
I just want to remind everybody that I'm available for one-on-one counseling if they have issues that they need to address.
yes. So if you want to request a mentor, you can go to our website, and it's up on the screen right now. Or you can give a call and you can request a mentor with specific accounting and or QuickBooks experience. Cal is one of them. We do have other mentors that are available. So please go ahead and do that. And I also do want to just post a poll so that we could get some feedback on this webinar and make sure that we're addressing the needs of you for the future. So we thank you all very much for attending. Cal and Angela, thank you very much for presenting. And if folks could please fill out the online poll, we would very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Mercedes, and thanks, Cal.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a good day. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.